Most people have experienced a time in their lives when they wanted to get even with someone for a perceived wrong, which has had a profound and perhaps lasting impact on them. The desire for satisfaction and emotional justice can be quite strong, and although it's natural to maybe fantasize about it briefly, it's not so productive to let those thoughts fester, as they can eventually lend to making a critical error based upon your emotions rather than critical thinking skills and our sense of moralistic principles. So what do? You catch your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your spouse cheating on you, for instance. What about a situation at work where someone gets you fired for something that you never even did? What if you confided something really personal to a friend and they turn around and betray you by telling someone else, and before you know it, everyone knows your personal secrets? That overwhelming feeling of social rejection can influence a person to get even. It's payback time, right? You can't let someone get away with hurting you like that, and you need to make an example of that person so others will know not to mess with you anymore, or they're going to suffer the same wrath and retribution. I'm going to show everyone. Mess with me, and this is what you get. Well, I guess that's one way to go about it, especially if you're a vengeful person by nature, or you just lack a moral compass, or you have an overinflated sense of self-worth. There's even going to be more pressure to lash out if friends or people in your social circle know about the wrongs that were done to you, and then they start pushing you to do something about it. No one wants to be seen as a pushover or come across as being weak. I remember being told just to let things go as a kid. Time would heal all wounds. And another thing I was told was to forgive and forget. But that usually didn't bode very well for me, since things tended to linger and fester like an infected wound that wasn't properly treated. And let's face it, getting revenge can trigger a feeling of instant satisfaction in our brains, an emotional reward that momentarily eliminates our own suffering. But there's a problem right there. It's only temporary, unless you're someone who lacks any empathy for others. The moment of triumph is short-lived and replaced with something else, like guilt or fear, especially if we cause a person serious harm and we have to carry that moral guilt in our hearts and minds. And if a person feels no remorse for causing such a harm and can rationalize their actions to justify the retaliation, they're still going to carry the fear of getting caught and getting punished for their deeds. But seeking revenge is always a double-edged sword this way. It's just the way it works. And in some ways, our modern technology has made it a lot easier for us, and that we can simply dox somebody and publish all their personal details online for the whole world to see. I mean, even major news organizations have threatened to do this, even to minors, like in the case with that Covington Catholic school kid. Doxing even removes our sense of responsibility, because all we did was gather publicly available information and distribute it. And we let the other people do our dirty work for us, and therefore we're not to blame, right? My hands are clean. Oh, and I'd be woefully remiss if I didn't mention revenge porn, another toxic yet fairly easy stunt to pull off with readily available deepfake software that allows somebody to pull off a seemingly realistic encounter that never actually happened in real life. So the list goes on. People used to swat. There's an example of revenge that got some traction for a while. Swatting, especially if the victim was live streaming playing games, for instance, on the internet, and the aggressor got the instant gratification of seeing their enemy getting taken out by the cops in real time, live streamed along with the rest of the world who happened to be viewing at the time. And this allows a certain psychological separation because the aggressor isn't physically involved, at least not directly, and their act of revenge is carried out by others who they manipulated. And let's not forget the worst of them all, school shootings and murder. Doesn't get any worse than that. So what's the final conclusion then? Is revenge really an effective way to deal with people who have done us wrong? Or is it just a maladaptive response that does more harm than good? Is revenge justifiable in certain situations? I'm curious. Leave your comments below. I'm not a doctor of any sort. I've never claimed to be. I'm just a student of life, trying to find my way through like everyone else. Thanks for your time. Peace.